want to welcome you to our growth group leader training here. If you are with us, you have probably been contemplating becoming a growth group leader, are a growth group leader, and are refreshing yourselves on what we do with growth groups. Maybe you're from another church and you're tuning in to see what we do with our groups, and so I'll welcome you for whatever reason that you are tuning into, and I hope that this training will be helpful to you. I believe that it'll be helpful to God's kingdom and for our congregation and for our leaders. And so I want to talk for a moment about what growth groups are, just to be real clear about what growth groups are, because we have two sets of groups that we kind of talk about in our church. One is fellowship heavy, the other is what I would call discipleship heavy. Growth groups are fellowship heavy groups, and they're small groups of about 6 to 15 people. They can get kind of bigger, but they are led by people in the church for fellowship, for study, for service, anything that you're interested in or trying to have fun with, and wanting to help disciple people and share Christ with people and celebrate Christ with people. That's kind of what our growth groups are for. And so they meet in people's homes, they meet in coffee shops, they can meet in our church building, parks, kind of anywhere they want, but we try to make our growth groups very relational and very fellowship focused. And so in our church, a lot of times what these look like, they look like home groups of people that get together in people's homes. They can look like men's groups that meet, women's groups that meet, marriage groups, family groups, groups for singles, sports. So like our softball team counts as a growth group, and even some of our service groups. We have groups that get together to serve in the community. When we get these groups together, basically, we are trying to bring people together to know that they have a place that they can be in relationship with others, a place that they can belong, a place that they can serve Christ together, a place that they can pursue Christ together. And so basically, we kind of think of our growth groups fulfilling 3 different functions in the life of our church. The first is for people who are looking for community with other believers. And so these are people who are in the church and they want community, they want fellowship. The Bible tells us that we will be known by our love for one another. And the scriptures talk about the church as being part of the family of God. And the church is where people can go to experience community and fellowship and accountability. And so we want our growth groups to help fulfill that role. They don't do it perfectly, but they help in a really big way. And so we want it to be a place for people who are looking for community with other believers, people who are already believers are looking for community with believers. We also want our groups to be a place for people who are looking for Jesus. Now we believe, and this is kind of a tweak a little bit to our groups if you're just tuning into this new set of training, we believe that our groups are a great place for people to start who are looking for Jesus. Kind of gone are the days where people just wake up on Sunday morning and they decide to come to church. It still happens occasionally. It still happens occasionally in our congregation, but not as often as I think it used to. Part of the reason is that less people are raised in the church. Less people know what to expect when they come to church. And then the people who have been raised in the church, because much of our music has changed, kind of the way that our services are kind of structured anymore, when they come to church, it can kind of feel awkward or maybe a little foreign to them. And so knowing this, we want our groups to be a place that we can invite people to who are looking for Jesus. We actually think our groups are a place where people might be more comfortable before coming to a service where we are singing songs to God, we're praising Jesus, we are praying, we are opening the Bible together. In our growth groups, some of this is happening, but at a much more relaxed level. And so we think our groups are a really great place, especially our growth groups, are a really great place to invite people that you know, family members, friends, co-workers, who are looking for Jesus. And so we want our groups to be kind of the place where maybe we invite people first, and then we make the next step to invite them. Well, hey, why don't you come with me on a Sunday morning service? And so looking for Jesus, people looking for Jesus, and people who are just looking to be loved and welcome somewhere. We are becoming a more isolated culture. Some of it, I'm filming this right now during the coronavirus pandemic, and so some of the isolation maybe is kind of needed right now by some people, but people were already isolated, people were already struggling, people were looking for community and people who would be there for them. And the church should be a place, right, where people can come and they'll feel loved and welcome. Well, where do people feel loved and welcome? They feel loved and welcome when they are in relationships with other people. And so they may not even be looking for Jesus, they're looking for a group of people that they need to kind of plug into and be around and just experience love. And I believe that if we can provide a place for people like that they will see where this comes from. It comes from our relationship with Jesus Christ, and we can use our groups as an evangelistic tool in that way as well. And so here's kind of some basic principle for us when we think about our groups. We want our groups to feel relational. And so when we think about our groups, we think about the early church and how they met in houses. They went from house to house is what we were told. And they worshiped at the temple, by the way. See, it says day after day in Acts 5:2, they went to the temple courts and from house to house. And they never stopped teaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Messiah. So we see in the early church this idea that people are going to the temple, but they're also meeting in each other's homes. So they're also building relationships with people. So this is why we encourage a lot of our growth groups to actually kind of be home groups. You meet in people's homes. Now you don't have to meet in people's homes, but the principle behind this I think is really important. It's that relationships are really important. The authenticity is really important. That allowing people to see who we are, and it kind of happens in our home. When people walk into your home, you're a little more vulnerable. You show like, hey, this is who we are. We're welcoming you here. Food is a big part of that, which we'll talk about here in a few moments. But it allows a lot of people also to kind of be themselves around you and to put their guard down a little bit. And so we encourage people to meet in homes, but the principle is to meet in places where people can kind of get to know you and you can get to know them on a weekly basis. And so it's this idea that, hey, we're going to meet in homes on a weekly basis, maybe bi-weekly, and then we're going to go to the temple together. We're going to go to the church together as well. So this is kind of the principle behind what we are trying, one of the principles behind what we are trying to do in growth groups. A part of who we are trying to be as a church and the people that we have tried to be as Church of God people, that's the movement that I am and kind of the tribe that we flow from, is we have always kind of tried to be a church that is pursuing what was good in the New Testament. And I think this is something that they had right. They got community right here. And this is something that should be taught and celebrated in our church. And so this is why we think our growth groups are really important. And so here are some things that growth groups offer. As I've kind of said, and I want to make very clear, growth groups offer relationships. We need relationships. We need a place to connect. Growth groups help offer that. We need a place to experience community. Growth groups help offer that. We need a place of care, a place to care for one another. Growth groups help offer one another that. But it's great when the entire church rallies around somebody to help somebody, and I love seeing that. We still do that in our church. But it's even better sometimes, or it's I don't know if it's better, but it's more organic often, right? If you are a part of a group or somebody is part of a group and they have a need and their group almost immediately fulfills it. Like typically the group is the place where some of the needs that we find that people have in our church, where that need is first met, because those relationships can be more personal and they can be deeper, and groups often can work faster than the larger congregation. So a place of care, a place for food. We now encourage, like if you have a group meeting at your house or really anywhere else, I strongly encourage you to have food. Now I know right now we have the COVID pandemic going on, and so that may not always be the best idea for your situation, and maybe you have people bring their own food, but when this thing is over, or however this thing works out, I encourage you, if you're able to share meals together. It really helps with the fellowship. And then finally, a place of prayer. the thing that kind of makes your group different than any other kind of social group out there, any group that just kind of meets, neighbors, whatever that might be, local community group, is that you have a component to your meeting time where you are going to pray, where you're going to do something that focuses on the Lord, maybe a devotion, a scripture reading, a word of encouragement, or something like that. And so these are all things that are very important, that are a part of the way that we relate to one another in our groups, and we're going to offer relationships in our growth groups. So here's some things that growth groups have. So if you were to show up to a growth group, here's some things that, or if you were to run a growth group, lead a growth group, here's some things that maybe you can expect to do: to have some casual fellowship on maybe the front end of your group with some food. And then if you are a group that is kind of centered around a study, many of you know that when we're all meeting here, I typically do notes, and I'm allowed to hand things out for my sermons, that I do sermon notes, and you can even take those sermon notes home to your group, and you can have an activity or discussion around the message. We also have a number of ways we can resource you through right now media and other resources that we can give you if you're leading a group to lead activity or discussion around. And so we can make those available to you. So just contact the church if you have any questions about that, and we'll help you out with that. And then we end with prayer, and we make sure that all of our groups, whether they're a service group, whether it's a sports group like the softball team, that they all have prayer and some type of spiritual component. Like I just said, that's what makes you a growth group, and a part, the group being a Christ-centered group than just some other group that meets kind of throughout the week. And so here's your role as a leader. If you are watching this because you are a leader, here's some things that I am going to ask you to do. And here's some things that are going to make you successful as a leader. The first thing is just real simple: lead. You may not see yourself as a leader, but you are a leader if you are hosting, if you are having people over, if you are helping people have a Bible study, discussion, activity, if you are helping prepare food for other people, that you are a leader. People will appreciate you leading, will appreciate you giving some direction. You don't have to be heavy-handed. You don't have you personally don't even want to take up the bulk of the discussion time or anything like that. But you need to lead. You need to make sure that people know when you're meeting, that they know where you're meeting, that they know what's expected of you, that they know how long the time you're going to spend together is going to be. They need somebody prompting when you guys are going to go out with one another, or when things are canceled sometimes. So just lead, help guide people, help make decisions, help move the group forward, and keep the group going. So your role as a leader is don't be shy about leading. Okay? Don't be shy about leading. Number 2 is to help people take the next step. Help them take the next step. So maybe you have somebody who's been coming to your group, and this would be awesome, right? If somebody's coming to your group and they've been studying with you guys, or they've been fellowshipping, and maybe they've taken the next step and even have come to one of our services, or and maybe they've gone back to your house, and at some point in time, you've led them to Christ. And so praise God for that. So their next step would be baptism. So you would want to start talking to them about baptism, and maybe even connecting them with me if I don't know them real well at this point in time, so I can talk to them about baptism. Or maybe the next step for somebody might just be they've been coming to your group for a time, but they've never come on a Sunday morning. So they've become comfortable with your group. Maybe it's even a serve team group. And so they've been coming and they've been serving alongside other people in the church. And you know that they don't attend church here, they don't attend church anywhere else. And so maybe kind of an obvious next step for them would be joining you on Sunday morning here at our church. And so you have the opportunity then to ask people to kind of take that next step. Maybe the next step for somebody, you're talking about forgiveness or reconciliation. And so the next step for somebody might be you challenging that person to go to the person that they need to reconcile with or forgive, and having them go through the steps that they need to go through in order to reconcile or forgive that person. You can kind of follow up with that person. But you want to lead these people. You want to ask them to take kind of the next step in their faith or in their life as they are moving closer to Christ. And one of the things that we want to do in our groups is we want to remind each of our groups for each person to reach one person. So we don't need to be shy about who we are as followers of Jesus or Christians. You may have people in your group that aren't Christians, that don't believe that everyone needs Jesus, but we believe that everyone needs Jesus. And I believe that we as Christ followers, as Jesus followers, we need to make sure that we are reaching people who aren't following Jesus. One of the goals for our church is for each and every person in our congregation to be praying for somebody currently who does not know Jesus and who is not fellowshipping with Jesus followers. So, that being the case, since that's a goal of ours as a church, as a leader in our church, as being somebody who is leading a growth group, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is to ask people who are they praying for and who are they trying to reach, and challenging people to do that. And so you're reminding people in your group to each week to make sure that they are praying for their one, is what we call them. And the fourth thing I need you to do is I need you to train up leaders. I need you to train up leaders, and here's why. We need to be able to multiply our groups. We have a few groups in the church that are getting, all around the kind of 12 to 15 range. They're getting a little big, and we need to make space to make new groups. And so you need to be, as a leader, kind of identifying potential leaders in your group to start their own groups, so that we can make more room for people who may want to join groups or needs to be in a group itself. One of the changes that I kind of want you to know about, something to think about, is not only should we be praying for our one, but we should be inviting our one to our growth group. And our growth groups should be able to get big enough to expand a little bit, that we allow them to do that, so that we can be inviting people to our groups. Because we are inviting people to our groups may get to the point where they're a little bigger than what we typically are comfortable with. Therefore, when they get to kind of be a bigger size, we need to be able to have leaders that are able to say, you know what? I'm going to take some of our group and we're going to go start to meet at my house. We're going to go meet at this coffee shop, or we're going to go do this for a time so that we can make room for more people. And so you need to be training up leaders, because our groups need to get to the point where they're able to kind of multiply and they have leaders that are able to lead. Maybe some of these leaders, or maybe the way you train some of these leaders is you ask them to lead occasionally in your group. Have them lead discussion. Have them lead prayer. Let them know that, hey, I believe that you are a leader and that you are capable of leading your own group at some point, and you need to be prepared for that and praying about that. So train up your leaders. And here's some just general advice for our leaders is this. It's pray for your group. Pray for your members in your group. If you know something's going on in their lives, they shared a prayer request that week, pray weekly for them. Pray with them while they're there. That's a really important thing for you, is for them to hear you pray and to see you pray and to pray with you. Have a co-leader. Just talked about training up leaders. Your co-leader could be the person that you are trying to train up so that your group can multiply if need be. Connect outside group time. Go have some fun. Go ride go-karts, go golfing, go for a hike together, go out to dinner together. Go do what you like to do together, and invite people in your group to do things outside of your group time. Build relationships. Have fun. So yeah, second thing, or not second thing, but the fourth thing down on here is to have fun during your group as well. So, you don't have to be serious all the time. You insert humor, allow people to be real, allow people to make jokes, have fun. Here's a big one after having fun is end on time. This will help people. If you are especially a group that kind of studies, you want to make sure that you end on time, especially if you're inviting people. You should be inviting people, by the way. But when you invite new people, they're going to want to know when it starts and when it stops. And so a good kind of meeting time for growth groups is somewhere probably the sweet spots for growth group timing is anywhere from about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. So you would tell people, okay, we're going to start at 6 p.m. That's when we start. You open up your home or wherever you're meeting. You have some refreshments, food there, so forth. You give it about maybe 15 minutes or half an hour for small talk, fellowship, and if it's a study group, you move to wherever you're going to study or whatever you're going to do, and then you begin to have a discussion. You allow that discussion to go for an hour or so, or really probably 45 minutes or so, which will fly by. And then you move to prayer requests. You have prayer together. You end on time at 6:30. And now that doesn't mean that people can't stay around and can't continue to chat or whatever that might be, but there might be people in your group that have to go to work the next day, maybe have their kids have homework they need to get done, or they're coming to your group for the first time and they don't want to be stuck there. Like they need to know that I can leave and that you're going to get done on time. And so end on time. Start on time for the most part and end on time. End on time. You need to be inviting others, and this is something I've keep saying over and over in this training because this is kind of new for us. But you need to be inviting others. You need to be inviting others in the church and outside of the church to be a part of your group. If you are a leader, people need to see you inviting people to your group. They need to see you inviting people in the church, and they need to see you inviting people outside of the church. Take leadership on this and ask other people in your group to invite others as well. Help members in crisis, that is very important. I believe that love is shown in relationships, and so when people are in crisis, the group can gather together, they can help them. If it's a pretty big problem, and you believe that the entire congregation needs to come in and kind of swing in and help this person and rally around this person, you as a leader need to let me or somebody in the church know, kind of in leadership in the church know, and so that we can help rally around this person as well. And then the last kind of piece of advice here is don't give up. Don't give up. Keep at it. Your groups will fluctuate. Sometimes they'll be real big. Sometimes they'll be small. Sometimes everybody will show up one week, and then sometimes it feels like nobody shows up the next week. Just don't give up. The quality of relationships, the quality of fellowship that you can have, if you stick with it, will be worth it, and it will be worth it to see people growing in Christ and coming along people, and to see the benefits of what you have done as you have discipled others. So don't give up. I want to talk to you about creating some good group dynamics. First and foremost, just set general expectations. Let people know what you are going to do at your group. And so if you are what we call a sermon discussion group, and so you listen to the sermon, maybe right now you're watching the sermon online, you would let people know, hey, we're going to discuss the message. We're going to ask how the Holy Spirit spoke to you through that message, or what stood out to you, or what kind of change do you think you need to make in your life, or how you were challenged. However you kind of word those questions around the message, you're going to study that text. Just let people know, hey, we're going to come. We're going to have about 10 or 15 minutes of fellowship. There's going to be food, and then we're going to jump in, and we're going to have some study time together, and then we're going to end at 6 o'clock of study, and then we're going to have a time to prayer together, and then you're free to leave if you want. You're free to stay to hang out for a little while more if you want. Follow the 70-30 rule. So what I mean by that is that you should be talking less than 30% of the time as the leader. You should be leading, you should be prompting people, but you should not dominate the conversation. You should not dominate the group, but help the group and help people in the group process any type of information or anything that they're dealing with during that time. And so 30% of the time or less, you should be speaking as a leader. 70% of the time or more, you should be having different people in your group speaking. Third, keep this discussion positive. One of the things I mean by that is, encourage people in the Lord. Another thing I mean by that is avoid gossip. Right? Avoid gossip, talking bad about people, just getting down on people. And so keep the discussion positive. Keep the conversation relevant and inclusive for all. Be careful and watch out for side conversations when you're in the group and doing something as a group, or maybe the study as a group. When you're just having food, fellowshipping, side conversations going to happen. But if you find that you're having discussion over a particular topic and you realize the person has kind of moved into an area that may not be relevant, maybe kind of a rabbit trail or whatever, try to get them, or maybe even yourself, I do this sometimes, try to get yourself back on the path where everybody is kind of interested and everybody is included in the conversation. One of the things we need to do is respect boundaries. What I mean by this is that men should never really be alone with somebody who is not their wife, or vice versa if you're married, especially if you're married. Men should not be alone with women. Women should not be alone with men. Be careful too if you have a group that's got a lot of children. We generally encourage you to be careful about who is alone with who and how those sorts of things happen. And so we just want to make sure that we're respecting boundaries even at our home as we do in our congregation. And then stay connected. Send people texts throughout the week. Let them know you're thinking about them. Send Facebook messages to people. It's probably a good idea. You can start a Facebook group or just start a Facebook chat with your group so that you can stay connected that way throughout a week, and you can give announcements or let people know what's going on, what's changing. You can invite people to go out with you during the week, or kind of plan some of your group through ways, through maybe like Facebook Messenger, GroupMe, different apps that you can stay connected, and people can stay informed with what's going on with your group. And then if you've got through this training and you still want to be a leader, which I hope you do, here's how you can start your group. First thing you need to do is you need to ask God for direction. God, where am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And maybe who do you want me to start it with? Pray about that. Pray about starting your group. Ask the Lord to prepare yourself, right, and the people who are going to be a part of your group. Ask God to give you confidence that you can lead, and ask God to give you people that you will lead. Ask God that He would not allow you to get discouraged. It can be sometimes easy getting discouraged in ministry. Don't get discouraged. Ask Him to not allow you to give up easily, but to kind of keep at it. So ask God for direction. Ask God, then second, decide what your group is going to do. And so if you are going to lead, you need to know what you're going to do. Are you going to do a Bible study? Are you going to do kind of a sermon study? Are you going to watch videos on Right Now ministry? Yeah, whatever it is, right? I'll put it down at the bottom of the screen here. Yeah, Right Now Media, that's what it is. Right Now Media. Are you a service group? Are you serving people? Ask or decide what you're going to do, and then choose a place and time to meet. So very simple, right? When you're going to do everything, choose a place, choose a time that you're going to meet, put it on the calendar, start connecting your group. We are asking too that you register your group with our church so that you would call or email the office here. The person in charge of this is our communications director, Ryan Jagger, for putting it on our website. That way people too can see what is going on in our church, and maybe they're interested in joining your group. It gives them an opportunity to do that and to reach out to you. And then invite people. If you're going to start a group, you need to have people to start with, and so you need to be inviting everybody you know, everybody you see to your group. That's the one thing I think most people struggle with when starting a group. Maybe they feel led to start a group, but they don't have anybody in their group, and they want people to come to their group. The best way for you to get people to come to your group is not for the church to promote that your group exists. We'll throw it on the website. We may, depending on kind of what's going on, even announce it on Sunday morning. But the best way to get people to show up is for you to personally invite people to your group. So invite, and then pray, and then invite some more to get started. You have to do that to make it work and to kind of grow your group. And remember, you can start a growth group with 3 or 4 people. You can start small. Start small. You continue to meet. You continue to have fun. You continue to seek the Lord together. And as you do that, you just continue to invite people to your group. Say, hey, a few of us meet. This is what we do. I want you to join us. And so you can start small. Don't get discouraged if you start with just a few people. Just a quick thing, just to let you know, we've been here for going on 7 years now. When we started our group, we started relatively small. We grew a little bit. We got smaller. Now we're kind of big again. And an interesting thing about our group, the group that meets at my house, is that there is only one couple out of almost 8 or more that meet at our house now that was there 6 years ago. And so just don't give up. We love our group right now. It's a wonderful thing, and you can yours too. You just have to stick with it. And it's a great thing to get to guide people and to shepherd people and to lead people in a growth group and to build relationships with people in the church and even outside of the church. So here's the last thing I want to give you before we end together is read our growth group leadership guide. I have one here. We will print these off for you. We have these in the office. I'll try to make these available on our website too. This is more information than what I talked about, but I think these will be helpful to you, and they can kind of give you some ideas, and there's also resources in the back of this book. And then watch this video. If you've gotten this far, you've watched the video. So congrats. Thank you for watching this video. If you know of anybody who leads a group at a different church or anywhere else and want to share this with them, I appreciate you doing that. And God bless you. And yeah, love you.